Thank you for joining me today on Paint a Beautiful Picture. Today we will talk about teaching grace to your child. This is a really kind of a challenging one to teach because sometimes it's a challenging one to live. This is episode 110. What in the world is grace? A lot of people say it's unmerited favor. Well, what in the world is that? That means undeserved kindness, there's an element of that. It is not always deserved. But another definition of grace, according to Merriam-Webster, is acceptance. And another definition is receiving divine or God-given assistance for regeneration, that's change, or revitalization, that's new life. And really and truly, we all need that all the time. As human beings, we struggle, don't we though? When I was young, I struggled with my temper. Wow, I had a wicked bad temper. Natural redhead, fiery, horrible, out of control temper. Okay? There were a lot of other things in my world that were out of control when I was younger. It didn't help any that I came out of an extraordinarily dysfunctional, abusive home. But I had plenty of my own humanity. I can't blame it all on anybody else because it certainly was my responsibility, the way I lived and the way that I acted. I say that to you because if you have challenges and difficulties and glaring human faults, I'd like to welcome you to the human club. No kidding, right? We all do, and we all are constantly working on those things. So with the help of God, we actually can come to a place where we are made new. I mean, I just had a discussion with someone the other day. I haven't been in a big argument, even an argument, much less a throwdown, layout fight with anybody in well over 12 years of my life. When I regard my earlier life, that's actually impressive even to me. Thank God for regenerational grace that really has changed, altered, radically demolished parts of my life that needed to go. And new life where I can actually speak kindly and speak with real life and no insult or criticism. That's awesome new life for me, and I'm really thankful for it. So I tell you that it is not just possible. I have living proof that it's possible in great measure. So here you have this kid, and he has things that are just making you nuts. Usually those are things that are most like your own faults or most like your mate's faults. So you're married and this particular part about your wife just drives you crazy, and you see that in your child. Oh, it's really gonna bug you. Or you're married to this guy and there's one part of him that you can hardly handle and you see it echoed in your child. Man, that is going to get all over you and drive you nuts. And I know it. I know it extremely well. I lived it. That's how I know it. And so this is where you have to learn how to teach your child grace. How do you teach them? Well, haven't we had this discussion before? Most things are caught rather than taught. So if you do not have any grace for yourself, you will not have any grace for your child because you cannot give away what you do not have. Hence, you've got to have grace with yourself. Now listen to me carefully. That means you need to have approval for the things about yourself that are good. You literally need to be able to say affirmations to yourself like, I am a good daughter. I am a loyal friend. I am a good servant, meaning you don't mind helping your neighbor by cutting their grass when they broke their leg. You don't mind helping the old lady across the street by taking her to the grocery store and patiently waiting for her while she wanders the aisles and picks up her few things. I am a good servant. That's what I mean by that. I'm a great employee. I am on time. I work really hard while I'm there. I contribute. I'm good to my fellow employees. I'm a good employee. You need to be able to see and know the parts of yourself that are good and acknowledge them. Maybe you don't go around and tell the whole wide world. Nobody likes a braggart. but you don't have any problem acknowledging those things to yourself or affirming those things to yourself. One of the things you can understand is that as you speak things, often they come into being, they become true. So you might say things to yourself like, I am becoming a good parent. I am becoming a patient person. I am becoming a person of grace. Those are very appropriate things to yourself, and I do mean out loud. So one of the places I love to do affirmations the most is in the car. Nobody's around. They're not going to overhear me, think I'm a little nuts. I'm going to say things to myself in the car that I might not say elsewhere, and I will often say them loudly and emphatically. Okay? I hope you understand that language. I am becoming patient. I am becoming a person of grace. Okay? So whatever that means to you, you approve in yourself the things that are good. You admit to yourself that you are still being regenerated. New things are coming, and you speak those affirmations out loud. Once you could do that, then you accept your weaknesses. This is a little harder. Okay? I accept that I am not as strong as somebody who is 6 feet tall and 200 pounds, and I never will be. I'm 5 feet tall, and when I was young, about 115 pounds, 120. Yeah, there were a number of limitations I had. I accept my physical limitations. I accept my emotional limitations. When I was younger, I am a person with a very bad temper. That means even if I can't hold on to my temper, it's just boiling inside of me, I'm not going to yell and cuss. I'm not going to throw stuff and break stuff. See, I accept my limitations and learn in relationship to them how to behave appropriately. Thank heavens, over 45, 50 years, I've even learned to control it internally. That definitely took me some time. But first, I just had to accept my weaknesses and my limitations. You need to accept your weaknesses and your limitations also. Once you do, once you can approve what is good and accept what is not, now you can show grace to your child, because you can show grace to yourself. So they get angry and they break things. Really, if you get angry and yell and scream back at them and slap them around, all you've shown them is just exactly what they did. I mean, you're no better off than them. If you demonstrate patience to them, if you verbalize, I am really angry about the way you are acting, I am really frustrated with the way you are talking, I am not happy with your behavior right now. They understand that you have emotions too, but you aren't out of control. You're not slapping somebody, yelling and cussing and breaking stuff. They find out, oh, you might actually be able to be really furious, but not act like a fool. That's what they need to see. That is grace. I don't mean like, oh, honey, it's all right that happened. That's not grace. That's trash. That's approving their junk. Don't do that. Grace is, I understand you have a bad temper. I understand you lost it. I can appreciate what it feels like to be angry because I'm pretty angry myself right now. I still love you. And yet there are consequences. Don't leave that part off. You broke your stuff? Well, I'm not going to go out and replace that. Oh, Mom, I need that. Well, if you needed that, you shouldn't have broken it. No joke. That's the real deal, honey. That is still grace, okay? It is not tolerance. It is grace. It's certainly not approval over wrong behavior, but it is acceptance that sometimes we as humans make mistakes, and still they have to be dealt with. If you make a mistake and back up into a guy's car because you didn't see it, which I happened to do one night because the car was black, and it was in a no parking zone, but I was still the one who hit it. I called the police. I mean, I didn't have to do that. I just could have ridden away. The guy was a moron. He's driving a black vehicle and puts it in a no parking zone. But I owned up, and oh my goodness, guess what? My insurance rates went up. Oh, and heaven forbid, I couldn't even believe this one. I got a ticket for improper backing. See, there are consequences even when we just make a legitimate mistake. Your kids do have to know that. So when you're teaching your child grace, you're doing it by example. You also teach them affirmations to notice what is good about themselves and build on their strengths, and the courage to acknowledge their weaknesses and to give those weaknesses over to someone bigger. As a 2, 3, 4, 5-year old, that's their mom and their dad. You have the opportunity to help to strengthen places in their lives where they have weaknesses. I know you're really angry. You may say so. You may even yell a little bit. You may not say bad words just because you heard mama say a bad word before. And you definitely may not break things. So they learn that there is grace and there is also the possibility of change, which is a part of grace, as we talked about. All right, so here are my questions for you today. 1, am I gracious to myself? 2, am I gracious to others? I will tell you an exception, which is kind of a big thing. Sometimes a person who has been horrifically abused and has a horrid self-image problem might actually be a little more gracious to others than they are to themselves. I know this because I was that person when I was younger. In general, though, it is not really possible to give grace to someone else if you don't know how to do it for yourself. Mine was a little backwards because of the extent and the depth of abuse that I suffered personally as a kid. I could, in fact, at times be more gracious to someone else than I could to me. It took someone who was older and wiser than me, who looked at me and said, you know, Violet, you never give yourself a single smidge of grace. And it's too bad, because you deserve it as much as anyone else. I cannot tell you how much that helped me. It didn't change overnight, but it absolutely made an impact in my life. And I began to understand that I deserved grace just as well as anyone else. I used to say this to my students. I've definitely said this to good friends of mine, and I now know how to say it to myself. If it's an incredibly bad day and I'm really struggling with something that I've had victory over for a long time, I will look at myself in the mirror and say, today, it is your turn to be human. If I'm around someone and they're having a really bad day, sometimes I will literally stop them. If I know them well, I'll put my hands on the side of their face. If I don't know them that well, I'll take a hold of their hands and I'll tell them, today, it is your day to be human. Because we all are. Sometimes it's a rougher day than other days, and it's okay. Learn how to give grace to yourself. Commit to giving grace to your children. Teach your children to be people of grace. Thank you so much for joining me today. I will look forward to your comments and your questions. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. Feel free to share it with someone. I will look forward to having you with me again on Paint a Beautiful Picture. You may find additional information on our paintabeautifulpicture.com website. Additionally, you may watch me on Rumble, and you may also listen to a podcast on Buzzsprout or Spreaker, all under the name Paint a Beautiful Picture. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. You may subscribe, and if you are interested in receiving notifications, please hit the notifications button.